Welcome to another Demon of the Week. Got a whole new setup now. I hope you enjoy it. Alright, so today we're looking at a bit of a different spirit. What I did, I actually went back to Connolly's complete book of demonology. And I was going to go and start listing the the families, the Decant hierarchy, listing the spirits within the families, and then deleting the ones that we've already discussed. But if you go into the book, then before it actually gets to the Decant hierarchy, the families and the hierarchy itself, it actually goes through groupings of, or the hierarchies of various demons from different grimoires and different people. So I took that and just started compiling a list. So I've actually ended up with 47 different spirits. So that should keep us going for almost another year. And then I'm sure we can find others after that. But anyway, so today we are going to be looking at Ukobach. Welcome to my channel. You are entering the world of magic and mysticism with your host, Lee W. Johnson. Keep the lights on and help improve the channel by becoming a supporter for just $2.99 per month. Hit the join button. Alright, so Ukobach or Urubach, it's a little known entity. And there are not that many correspondences that you will be able to find. There's a mention of Ukobach on Johannam's site with some various correspondences there, but also no N available that you'll be able to find. But Ukobach is very much a fiery entity and has the addition of water or association with being in the West and therefore water. So we could say that Ukobach is the fiery part of water, but has a stronger association with fire, which you'll understand why I'm saying that just now. But in that regard, we have therefore the fiery aspect within the elemental or elements themselves. And because of that, we can then associate Ukobach with Mars and the metal iron. Other correspondences, this is going to be a spirit you would probably have to work with. As I said, little known spirit, little known entity. Ukobach is only mentioned really in Duplancy's 1818 book Dictionnaire Infernal. And therefore, kind of a bit abstract, but I thought it would be worth mentioning. It's part of the list of spirits that I came up with, so just going to carry on with that. Now in in Dictionnaire Infernal, the original edition was 1818. In the 1863 edition, there was the inclusion of some images of various demons, and these were drawn by Louis Le Breton. And Ukobach is shown as being very much sort of an impish type of spirit with a very big head and exaggerated nose, and kind of a disproportionate body, very thin, wiry type of body, very much disproportionate from the actual head itself. And this imagery kind of reminds me actually of Harry Potter. Well, not Harry Potter himself, but the character in Harry Potter, Dobby. I'm sure everybody remembers Dobby. He likes his socks. But the kind of like the large head and the exaggerated nose and the thin, wiry body reminds me very much of that. However, Ukobach is very much a fire elemental. He is always displayed as being fiery, having fire coming from his body. And he is said to have been the inventor of frying, frying of food, and also fireworks. He appears with that blazing, the blazing fire from the body itself, And if you have watched Howl's Moving Castle, there's a character in there, the fire demon, called Calcifer, and again, very much reminds me of that kind of spirit, that kind of entity, that kind of fire elemental. And Ukobach, and as far as I remember, Calcifer also used to be depicted with his trusty little shovel that he would shovel the coals with. Now in Dictionnaire Infernal, this is used, the actual shovel is used by Ukobach to shovel the coal, is said to shovel the coal into the fires of hell. Unfortunately, as we know, these books, these grimoires, are very much Christian biased, and they're based in Christian demonology, really, at the end of the day. That's what they are. So they do have mention of the spirits, these entities coming from hell and being infernal spirits. Ukobach is noted as being charged by Beelzebub to maintain the oil in the infernal boilers, which is made of the blood of the damned and forged in the west where the sun sets. Now, if you don't follow the whole Christian worldview, which I don't do, therefore you're not going to have this concept of hell or the infernals in your own worldview yourself. So what are we left with? We are left with a fire elemental. If we go into the old ceremonial magic, but the mention of Paracelsus or Paracelsus, when he spoke about the elemental kings themselves, those being Peralda, Jin, Nixa, and Gob. So the elemental king of fire is Jin, and he is therefore the king of the salamanders. And if we were to take the whole idea of the salamanders and transfer that to a spirit which is a fire elemental in the same aspect, we can sort of see a crossover. In fact, there was, if you go and have a look at, just trying to find the URL again, demonicpedia.com. I found some information about Ukobach in there, and interestingly enough, there's some language that we can have a look at here, which kind of changes interpretations depending on who's interpreting it, and I'll get to that a bit more now. But one of those things on this particular site was that it mentions Ukobachs as in a plural spirit, not a singular entity named Ukobach. Which I found quite interesting, because that would kind of relate to the whole idea of the salamanders being the fire elementals, the fire spirits. So instead of one person calling them a particular thing, another person, Duplancy specifically, may have actually called them Ukobachs instead of salamanders. That's just the word that may have been given to him when he was actually working with these spirits, or if he didn't, then somebody did, because he got that information from somewhere. But yeah, so we instead of having a look at this, the idea that this is a singular entity named Ukobach, who was an infernal spirit and kind of shoveled the coals of hell to stoke the fires of hell. We can look at it from that non-Christian perspective, that non-Christian worldview of Ukobachs being fire spirits, or possibly Ukobach as being a singular spirit but ruling over those fire spirits. There's a couple different possibilities we can have a look at here, and as I said, it's going to be a case of actually going and working with the spirit and getting that information yourself. Now, the other thing that I wanted to mention, this is in relation to wording that was used, which can be interpreted in a different way. There was mention of forged in the west where the sun sets. Now, if we consider the position of, if you're working in your circle or your compass round, and you are placing the element of fire in the north or the south, depending on what hemisphere you're in, the normal ceremonial magic placements and the normal placement you will find in demonolatry, when you're actually doing an elemental circle, you will place fire in that position of either north or south, as I said, depending on what hemisphere you're actually working in. Then we move around to the west. So we continue moving in that movement with the sun from the east to the it's the south if you're in the northern hemisphere, it's the north if you're in the southern hemisphere. That's where we usually place fire within demonolatry. And then you continue moving around to the west where we have water. Now, if something is forged in the west where the sun sets, this is actually has a bit of an interesting aspect when we interpret this in a certain way. When something is forged, it's created. It is formed into something different. You take a chunk of metal, you heat it up, and then you forge it into something which is different, which is beautiful, which is created into something else. So you mold it, you change it. And this starts to take on an interesting aspect. Just this wording. I don't know if this particular wording was subconscious or whether it was intended, but it makes things interesting. So forged in the west where the sun sets. If you think of actually smithing itself, blacksmithing, you would heat up, you would then quench the metal. Keep doing that and it makes it stronger. So, you're quenching the metal in usually oil, but let's, for instance, say water, because that's what we find in the west and where the sun sets in the west, quenched by the water as it goes down, as it disappears in the evening. So there's this whole, as I said, there's this whole aspect of, we can interpret this in a particular way of the creation of something or the strengthening of something through the quenching of that thing being forged in the water of the west, and therefore continuing that cycle, keep going round and keep strengthening and strengthening and strengthening. So, you can have a look at that from that perspective, or from the perspective of the spirit actually being a psychopomp, like Hermes, where we do find that particular spirit on many compasses, or on my compass anyway, is that movement from the place of midday or midlife, moving into that position of death, and the psychopomp taking you across. So it is also that aspect we can actually consider as well. And the forging, therefore, would be after death we are forged into something else, which then become the ancestors. So a few ways we can actually interpret these things, which I thought was interesting and worth a mention. Let's just have a look if I had anything else here. No, not really. But other than that, there was mention from Jehannam, as I said. He states some law describes him as the lamp oil for the jack-o'-lantern, and then goes on to various unrelated things. I don't really see the relation of some of the things that he came up with that would relate to a fire spirit or a fire elemental. So, but have a look on Jehannam's side for what he has mentioned. Maybe it rings true for you. I don't know. But anyway, so that is Ukobach, and next week we will continue with more spirits. And as I said, we've got 46 now to do, so almost a year's worth of spirits to cover, and we'll just carry on doing that. I'll just knock them off the list as I go. Okay, so have a good one, and cheers for now. Bye bye.